What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first game of the 2022 NFL season. If you're like me, this day could not have come soon enough. And actually, now that it's here, I can't believe it. So I can't wait for this game to kick off in 20 minutes. I don't know about you guys. I don't really care who wins the game one way or the other. Obviously, we're going to look to make some bets here that are going to win us some money. But I have no affiliation to either side here, so this is going to be pretty objective. If you guys are here, you're tuning in, or if you're watching the replay of this, drop me a comment. Let me know if you're rooting for either one of these teams for any particular reason. Maybe you've got a favorite player, or you're from Buffalo, you're from LA. I'm a Browns fan myself, as hard as that is to say. But yeah, excited to see what we got here. So this being game one of the NFL season, obviously a lot of people excited to be able to bet on NFL. Everyone's looking for that, hot pick, that hot take. I'm always going to bring it to you very honest and straightforward. I do not believe that there's any such thing in the world of sports betting as a lock or a guarantee. There is no advantage that you're really going to find before the game kicks off. So this channel is going to be dedicated primarily to watching games and betting live in game based on what we see happening. So again, rather than predicting and guessing what we're going to see in the game, I'm not going to place my bets. Typically, I don't place my bets until the fourth quarter. However, when I see an opportunity, I will sometimes place quarter bets. So, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter bets. But predominantly, the majority of my wagers are going to be in the fourth quarter. That's given me enough time to really assess the game. Things have really settled. And you don't typically see a lot of runs take place in the fourth quarter. Of course, you're going to have those games. You're going to have those instant classics where the teams are going to go back and forth 5 times in the last 5 minutes of the game. That's the exception, not the rule. So a couple of things I'm going to be looking out for here. This is going to sound really boring to you guys, but this is the kind of thing that sets me up for long-term success when we're betting from the beginning of the season, moving on towards the end of the season. I'm studying coaching and time management. And the reason I do that is because I tend to lean more betting on totals, over-unders in games, more so than I do sides. And being able to identify which coaches actually have a brain and know how to manage time. I know that sounds silly, but the reality is the vast majority of coaches have no concept of time management. That goes for college football and the pros. And so being able to identify the ones that do make betting over unders very predictable in late game situations. So what we can tend to do is really calculate the number of possessions remaining for each team once we get down to like the 10-minute mark in the fourth quarter, especially if it's a tight game or maybe, a 1-score, 2-score game. Coaches who know how to manage the clock, again, get very predictable. We know that they're focusing on protecting the lead, and they do that primarily by trying to eat up as much clock as possible. There are other coaches, and we see a lot of this in preseason football. That's one of the reasons I don't bet on preseason football. Coaches are they couldn't care less really about the result of the game. They're trying to give players, as much time as they can to learn a little bit more about the new players, see what they've got. So their concern is not about managing clock and things like that. So I'm excited about this kickoff. Let me know in the comments if you guys have a side that you're following. If you've got any bets in right now, I'd love to hear what they are. You'll see on the ticker kind of scrolling down across the screen here, I've got this line originally opened up as the Rams. And again, it differs from book to book, but the consensus was that the Rams were about a 1-point favorite. The game was almost a pick 'em when the line first came out. And this is back in June, maybe March, April, May, late May, early June is when these lines were first released. So from now until then, the lines are closing now with Buffalo as a 2.5-point favorite. The total is at 52. That total hasn't changed. It opened at like 52.5, so very little movement there. But obviously we've seen the line move towards Buffalo here at -2.5. I personally think, again, I'm not one to bet before the game starts because I want to see what's going to happen. But if I was throwing money down right now, I'd absolutely be betting on Buffalo's side. And the reason I say that is because you look at how these teams are different from what they were a year ago. So obviously the Rams are Super Bowl champs, but they have a lot of key pieces in and out. So a lot of new bodies on this team, specifically in the starting lineups. And, those things just take time to form that chemistry. It's not going to just take a training camp. It's going to take a couple weeks, sometimes a whole season before that really starts to mesh. So on the offensive side, you look, for example, Robert Woods taken off. OBJ is not there right now. They're bringing in Allen Robinson, huge talent. But again, it's not so much about is he better or worse than OBJ or better or worse than Robert Woods. It's just he's a new body. So it's going to take time for him to mesh in that system. To me, I think the biggest hole right now for the Rams is going to be trying to fill Andrew Whitworth's spot. So, you lose a guy like that, and those are the things that people don't talk about, right, in sports betting. That's not a sexy position. It's not a highlight player, but these are the guys that are in the trenches that are making things possible for these teams. So when you lose a guy like that, again, that doesn't necessarily show up on a lot of sports bettors' radars. But when it comes to the books setting these lines and sharp money coming in on either direction, that stuff makes a big difference. Now you pair that loss with somebody like Von Miller joining the Bills, and you start to wonder, is Von Miller going to be able to wreak havoc in a game like this? So again, these are the reasons I don't like to bet before the game starts. Again, a lot of new moving pieces. To me, the Bills have a much more similar lineup and a much more similar roster today as they did to end the season last year. Very little has changed on their end. We just talked about Von Miller joining the team, but not a lot of huge, departures, not a whole lot of new names coming in. They did really well in the draft. I think they added a nice, a couple great key defensive players. Of course, they're young. They're going to take time to develop, but I like the talent there. Tre'Davious White is injured, so I don't believe he's going to be playing today. For the Rams, Van Jefferson is out. Again, that's another issue because, again, he's one of those guys who was coming back, who was very familiar with this offense. So, you're throwing Allen Robinson in there. They do have some younger guys, I think, who could do well. Tutu Atwell might get a chance in this game. If you guys are playing DFS, so if you're on FanDuel or DraftKings or wherever you like to play, that's a name you might want to throw into like $1 million lineup because it'll probably be low owned, but potentially, high upside there. But that's it. We're just kind of counting down here. We've got about 13 minutes left till kickoff. And I'm going to be sharing with you guys kind of the setup of the screen today. You're going to see me primarily just when there's not a whole lot of action going on. Other words, I will probably just switch to kind of being down here in the corner. I'm going to let you guys see the odds. I'm going to be using Bovada because it is, I know everyone's using a different sports book, but Bovada to me has the cleanest presentation. It'll be easy to follow along on the live lines as they're populating. I will update the live lines and put them up on the screen here as they change throughout the game. So if you're not familiar with live betting or you're not, you've never done it before, this is really one of the things we're going to be focusing in on this channel and in this session today. Basically what it is, well, let me start with what it isn't. So live betting is not necessarily betting on the outcome of every play. Now, there are people who do that. That's just gambling, okay? If you're going to be betting every play, trying to figure out if it's a handoff or a Hail Mary, if that's fun to you, go for it. But that's not a great way to really be throwing your money out there and trying to make a return. But in-game betting basically allows you to still bet on the outcome of the game as it progresses. So, if after the first quarter the Bills are up 7-0, they're probably going to be a 6.5 point favorite instead of a 2.5 point favorite. At that point, you're going to have the chance to take that. So we've got Mitch. What's going on, Mitch? You've got Rams money line tonight. Okay. Any affiliation with LA, or is that just your bold prediction? A couple minutes to respond here, but yeah. So we're going to be looking at those live lines, trying to pick times where it makes sense to jump in. Again, not just on the sides. I'm going to be keying in on that over/under as well. I'd like to see the pace of the game. Keep in mind the reason that I really like live lines is that the way live lines work is that once the game kicks off, it all becomes computer-based. So what the computer does is it basically looks at what that pre-game line was, or the closing line, which in this case, let's call it 52 points on the over-under. And it kind of divvies that number equally across all 4 quarters and across both halves. Okay. Well, we know that these games don't happen in a very consistent fashion, right? We don't come out and get 4 quarters that are played exactly the same way. We get games of runs. Okay. They could go a whole quarter without scoring, and then we're going to see 3 touchdowns in a minute and a half. That's just the way sports work. But again, that's not how live lines are set up. The computer algorithm is just taking that number, dividing it equally across all 4 quarters. And so if you're able to watch, if we get a scoreless first quarter, we might anticipate some fireworks in the second quarter. Or maybe we watch that first quarter and realize like these defenses are just on it today. Maybe Josh Allen gets hurt in the first quarter, whatever it is, you can find an opportunity to jump on those live lines based on what you're seeing happening. Let me know. We got over. So Carlos kicking the Rams and the over. Okay, I like it. I do like, so Rams money line. I will agree with you guys. I think if you're on the Rams side, I would take the money line at this point. You might as well take the little extra value there than messing with the points. One of the things, again, I like to focus in on, if I am going to bet a number early on before the game, so in this case, if you guys are thinking about Rams, I actually tend to take adjusted numbers and take the plus money on it. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to scroll down here and look at these adjusted lines, if they've still got them up. Yeah, they're starting to pull stuff off the board here as we get closer to kickoff. Now, obviously, I can't share with you guys the game being televised, but I've got it up on my screen. I'm not sure if you guys are watching at home. What I'll do is I'll put the game cast up here on ESPN once it kicks off, so you can kind of follow along on play-by-play if you're not watching the game. But let's see what we've got for lines here. So closing line right now is still Buffalo 2.5 points, over under at 52. The Rams plus 1 ton on the money line. Yeah, they're pulling all the props off. But basically what I would have liked to do is let's say I'm on the Bills side, instead of me taking minus 2.5, I'm probably going to go up there and grab them minus 5.5 or minus 6. And I could probably get that number at plus 150 or plus 170, depending on where it's at. I'll still be able to do that live in game once the game kicks off. We'll see adjusted numbers come back up. And my philosophy always is, the earlier in the game you're betting, focus more on the odds and less on the number. So the earlier in the game, the more time there is for a lot of things to develop. So what you want to do is put yourself in a position to be able to capitalize on the odds that you're taking, not so much the number, because 3.5 points might sound great to you, but the reality is, 2 quarters later, it could be a 10-point game, it could be a 12-point game. You really want to focus in on those odds early on and try to grab something that's plus money if you can, or something that's going to give you an option to maybe cash out later on without a huge loss if you feel like doing that. One of the things I hate about betting before the game starts, and tell me if you guys ever experienced this, but you bet on a team, right? And then it comes down in the late third quarter or sometime in the fourth quarter, you're watching the game and it's just obvious that you're not winning your bet. It's so obvious. The best that you can do is sit there and pray and hope for a 14-point comeback in a minute and a half. And that's such a desperate feeling, especially if you're betting, any kind of significant amount of money. So rather than do that, why not wait until you're in that position where it becomes obvious to you, this team's not going to win, or this team's definitely going to win. Why not wait till you're in that spot to be able to place your bet? Even if it's at increased odds or worse odds than it would have been before the game, you're buying in a position where you're very confident in the outcome of the game. And of course, it's not guaranteed. Things can always happen, but that's the spot I've always liked to put myself in. So rather than being there and saying, man, I'm stuck with this losing bet here, I'm going to wait until I'm confident, I see it coming, and I'm going to jump all over it at that time. So that's why I usually like to wait till the fourth quarters. I will tend to also bet late into the second quarters. Again, I think those are predictable because you're up against a time constraint, right? We know what's going to happen in the last couple of minutes. Teams are either trying to score or they're trying to not give the ball back to the other team. So it becomes pretty obvious, and that's where that time management comes back into play. I've got a couple coaches already on my shit list where I know that I'm not messing with them because they have no concept of time management. And there are others who are well versed in it, and I trust to follow them and be able to bet on those games. But again, right now I don't have any bets in on this game at the moment. I do have a couple DFS lineups in, just little things. Again, being week 1, this is going to be the highest action week in DFS. Anything can happen, obviously. I went with the in-game showdown, so I'm playing just this one game slate. What I'll do is I have a couple lineups. Actually, I have one main lineup in for the full game. But then as we move into halftime, I think we're going to talk about some strategies if you wanted to do the second half or the fourth quarter DFS. And I'm talking about DraftKings. I'm fairly certain they have the same thing on FanDuel or Yahoo or wherever you're playing. But we'll be able to talk about that as the game goes on. So, yeah, that's about it. What else? Tell me, where's everybody from? If you guys are in here right now, let me know where you're from. I know we've got people in on the Rams right now. So any Bills supporters out there? I'm going to see here, see if we've got any props back up. Yeah, we've got a couple props back up. Over under on carries. I'm not messing with any of this stuff. My take, honestly, on this game is I don't think it's going to be a run-heavy game, especially for Buffalo. I think they might try. I don't think they're going to get very far. But, when your quarterback's always your lead rusher, it doesn't speak very highly of your run game. And even though they rank highly as a team, you take Josh Allen out of the mix. If they decide to stunt him and kind of hold him, keep him in the pocket as much as they can, the Rams, that is, we're going to see him slinging the ball quite a bit, possibly. But anyways, I'm not really messing with any of these props. Over under on carries. We've got over under on pass completions. Stafford, Allen. I'm not saying there's not a right or wrong answer there, but I'm not going to get into player props this early in the year, honestly. Passing TDs, 1.5 TDs sounds great, but at minus 197, not a ton of value there. Stafford 1.5. Probably wouldn't touch that one if I think if anyone's going to succeed in the run game tonight. I'd probably lean towards the Rams, but I don't know. I don't love their run game either. Over under on passing yards. What we got? Let's see here. I think last we checked, Josh Allen was around 275. That might have crept up. Something to keep in mind when you guys are looking at player props, and you may already know this. Stafford's at 269. Josh Allen's up to 277. Wow. Okay. The public loves betting overs on everything and anything. Doesn't matter what number you throw out there. The public tends to think you can't lose betting overs. And that's a very emotional play, right? Everybody wants to watch a high scoring game. They want to see the action there. The reality is there becomes very little value, I think, in betting overs the closer you get to the game, because that number is getting inflated more and more by every bet that's coming in. So the closer you get to kickoff, FYI, again, I'm not suggesting that you're betting player props one way or the other, but if you were just blindly taking bets on player props, I'd say if you're doing it before kickoff, I'd just be taking unders at that point, because I think you're getting a lot better value. Overs, again, they tend to already be a little bit exaggerated or inflated by the odds makers because they know the public wants to bet the over. And so that number's already a little skewed. Then you have people start betting it up and that number grows. So again, you got Josh Allen at 277.5. Obviously he can throw for 300 yards. I understand that, but I don't think there's any value in that number at all. Stafford at 269.5, again, who knows? They got a lot of new pieces in that offense, so let's see how it goes. Now, with these player props, I will say you typically can't bet them in game. So if you really did just want to have some fun with it, you probably do have to put those bets in before kickoff. So we're just a couple minutes away here. And then you get these player performance double props. You're basically just parlaying stuff at that point. And if you don't know my opinion on parlays are garbage. Everyone always says that. Actually, a lot of professional bettors will tell you that parlays are crap. They never explain why. So since we've got a few minutes here, let's talk about parlays really quickly. The biggest issue that I have with parlays is that the people who are taking them have no idea how the odds on a parlay are even calculated. Like how, if you're betting $100 and it pays out $50,000, people don't know where that $50,000 comes from. The way parlays are paid out is obviously you're betting on a combination of different games. All of them have to hit in order for you to win your bet. So if you're taking a 5-team parlay, all 5 teams have to win. 4 of the 5 win, you lose your bet. All you're doing in a parlay is you're taking your initial wager. So let's say you're betting $100. That $100 is basically being placed on that first game, okay? And then it's assuming you win that game, you would get that $100 plus whatever the win is. And then you're rolling over that entire amount into the second game. And if that game wins, you're taking that whole new entire amount, rolling it over into the third game. So basically all you're doing is taking everything you have every single time and putting it down on another game. The reason that doesn't make any sense is that most of the time when people take parlays, they're usually taking many teams at a time. So usually 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 team parlays, whatever it is. And a lot of times those games are not happening at the same time. So a lot of times they are, you'll have your Sunday night game, you'll have your Monday night game, you'll have your Sunday 1 o'clock game. And the fact that you're tying up your money and then rolling it all into a game that hasn't even started yet just doesn't make any sense. You could do that manually yourself if you wanted to by just betting the first game. Then if you win that bet, take all that money and throw it on the Sunday night game. And then if you win that, take all your money and throw it on the Monday night game. But the fact that you're putting them into a parlay and forcing yourself to then do that, that's where people get into all these predicaments of, should I cash out my parlay? Should I hedge it? Well, you never should have been in that position in the first place. You should have just bet the first game. And then when you won it, then decide, do you want to put all your money on the next game or not? And if you only wanted to put half of it on, put half of it on. So the concept of parlays makes absolutely no sense. But again, bettors don't understand what they're doing when they take them. Now, there is one scenario I will say where it can make sense. And that is if you have a very limited amount of money. Let's say you've got $50, okay, and you're just happy-go-lucky. You want to have some fun. You got $50 in your pocket, and it's Sunday afternoon, and there's 3 games you want to take, and they're all 1 o'clock kickoffs. That would be an instance where it makes sense to take a 3-team parlay or 4-team parlay, whatever it is, because you will not have the opportunity to win one bet and then roll it on into the next bet and so on and so forth, because they're all happening at the same time. And you only have that $50 to start with. So that would probably be the only instance. But again, that's somebody who only has $50 in their pocket, and that's not a serious sports bettor. So again, I'm not knocking people who are here to have fun betting on sports. I'm all for that, as long as you can be honest with yourself and say, I'm here to have fun. I'm not here to make money, because that's a big distinction that a lot of quote unquote sports bettors struggle with, is that they think they're here to make money, right? They think they're taking this seriously, but they're actually here to have fun. And that becomes very dangerous, because your mindset is different, and having fun and making money don't typically go hand in hand in this business. So I think you have to be disciplined, and you have to understand kind of what's going on, be able to approach those things a little bit differently. So I'm going to take just a couple-minute break here as we get into kickoff, and I will be back. So stick around, and we'll start assessing some plays live in game. All right. So what are you guys liking so far? Let's see what our lines are at now. Just seeing got any movement in the lines here. So this will happen a lot of times. Week 1, college football, NFL, you'll get all of these books just getting absolutely overloaded with traffic that they haven't seen over the last couple months, obviously. So I was just checking Bet Online earlier, and a couple other sports books that are kind of struggling here, loading pages and very basic things. Lines are coming down, a lot of just errors on their end, entering lines, a lot of things coming off the board. But let me know what you guys think of the game so far as we're going here. We've got the Bills driving. So see if we can get an early score. I'd say if you were on the Rams, and again, assuming you didn't take anything pregame, let's say the Bills come down, they go up 7-0 or, possibly 10-0 later on, you're going to get that inflated line on the Rams instead of plus 2.5. You're going to see them creep up into getting a touchdown. And if you liked it before the game, if you think, again, there's still a long time to play there, getting a touchdown is not a bad number. Or if you're on that money line still, you're going to see that creep up into the plus 250s, perhaps something in that range. So again, this is exactly why I don't ever try to predict what's going to happen before the game starts. I also always know that I can get a better number almost no matter which side you're on. At some point in time in the game, you're oftentimes going to get a better number than you could have before the game. So again, in this instance here, we've got the line on the Bills is already growing because they're driving down the field here. So instead of taking the Rams money line before the game, or instead of taking the Rams spread before the game, you could grab it now and have an extra point or 2 or 3. There you go. We got our touchdown right there. So Josh Allen to Gabe Davis. And there you go. 6-0, probably about to be 7-0 here right off the top. And again, this isn't a spot where I kick myself and say, well, I kind of liked Buffalo before the game started. Great. To me, watching a drive like that, I think to myself, okay, if I liked Buffalo before and they're coming out and they're doing exactly what I want them to do, I like them just as much right now, if not more. And even though that money line number is now growing and the spread has grown, I have no problem with that. If I'm more confident and I have more knowledge than I did half an hour ago, great. I'm happy to put more money behind it. So let me know if anyone watching right now, if you guys are live bettors, I'd love to know kind of what some of your strategies are, or at the very least, where do you do your live betting? I assume this is going to be an online sports book, unless you live, near a big time casino, and a lot of them now offer live betting where you can sit there and bet on a tablet or fund your account and bet on your phone. But I assume most people are doing it from home here. So let me know what you guys got going on. So we've also got a little break in the action here. I'm going to step away for a minute. Action resumes. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. We got Mike joining in here. So Mike likes to use Bovada, and he's saying they've got good crypto deposit bonuses. Nice. I agree. I like Bovada's UI the most by leaps and bounds. I think some of these other sports books, it's still mind-boggling that they can be so ugly and just kind of clunky. And I don't know why it's that hard, I guess, but it is apparently. DraftKings is really nice. Unfortunately, I've never lived in a state where I can use the DraftKings sportsbook, just the DFS portion. So I'd love to see the DraftKings sportsbook get legalized here in Florida. And the past states I've lived in also, it's still not legal there. So I'm sure it's just a matter of time. But I will say I have seen that one, and I think it is very nice as well. I assume the same can be said of FanDuel, but I've never seen or really used that. I'm more of a DraftKings guy. So let's see, Mike, what is your take on the game here? Are you liking Buffalo right now, or are you on the Rams before the game started? So let's see what we've got now. I just checked a couple more sports books. I saw a couple of them that, again, were having some issues getting some lines up. I think, again, a lot of traffic just that they weren't expecting. So let's see if I can get some of these lines to reload. We'll check Bet Online as well. See what we've got. Got the Rams with an early penalty there. Let's see what we've got here. Sports. We're trying to load something here, but we're struggling all over the place. All right. So you got the Bills up to 5.5 point favorite right now. The Rams getting 5.5. So again, if you were on the Rams early, this would have been a great time. Oh, not necessarily right now, but you can already see just a few minutes into the first quarter, you'd already have more value taking the Rams right now than you would have pregame. Instead of that 2.5 points, you're now getting 5.5. Money line is at plus 180. It's jumping all around here, sorry. But if you guys are seeing these things when they pop up, I don't know what Bet Online is doing right now. Calm down there. Anyways, just saw it a minute ago at plus 180, which is better than the plus 110 it was before kickoff. So again, just waiting a few minutes, seeing how the game unfolds. I typically don't make too much out of the first couple possessions of the games. Obviously, Buffalo came out, looked sharp, but even if they go up 14-0, I'm not going to jump ship on the Rams and say, oh my God, this game is over. So a lot of things can unfold, a lot of adjustments that can be made during the game. Let's see here. So Mike said he liked the Bills before the game, doesn't like the Super Bowl champs following year. Yeah. What did I hear? No one's repeated since the Patriots did it in 03, 04 or something like that. So yeah, I would say history is not on the side of the Rams repeating this year. He still likes 5.5 on the Bills. Wonder what the first quarter and the first half is. I'd love to tell you, but I can't get these sites to calm the frick down. So money line, first half, you got the Bills at minus 333. First quarter, it was just there a second ago. I think it was Bills minus 6.5. Yeah, and that's at minus 200. So heavy action there on the Bills first quarter minus 6.5, which, I don't know. Rams are moving the ball a little bit right now. So, they kick a field goal or something and Buffalo comes down and drives and ekes into the second quarter. It's a 7-3 game. So I don't love that necessarily. Bills money line first quarter, if that's even a thing, it's 2,500. Okay, so not worth betting there. But I'd say, if you're looking at a safer pick, we're already halfway through this first quarter. Rams are most likely not going to be scoring in quick downfield passes. Watch, I say that, and they'll probably throw a 50-yard touchdown. But, they're a little more methodical when it comes to their drives. So I would expect them to eat up a little bit of clock, especially since there's no rush right now. So at 6:48, I would expect there to maybe be the Rams' current possession, the following possession for Buffalo. That honestly could be it, because if Buffalo makes a drive out of it, they could end out that quarter. Or if the Rams were to hold them then again, I wouldn't see the Rams scoring again after that. So here we go. Stafford getting sacked. Carlos asking over-under for the first half at 28.5. The odds are changing so I think 29.5 I just saw. Yeah, these books are having so much issue right now. You can see this thing, it's just glitching left and right. It can't set still for 2 seconds. So 27.5, and that's locked. So that number is going to change in just a second. Bovada can't even get anything posted right now. So that just shows you the mess that they're in. So hey, I guess that's one benefit to betting before the game starts, is you don't have to worry about dealing with crap like this. I will say, one of the biggest, I don't want to call it a frustration, but one of the biggest hurdles in live betting is keeping up with the numbers as quickly as they change, right? Because play by play, those odds are going to change, that number can change. Your best bet if you're new to live betting is definitely to be betting during timeouts or TV commercial breaks, things like that, because you're going to have a minute to actually sit there and assess what you're betting on, think about it, and process the bet. Whereas if you're trying to catch these numbers on the fly throughout every play, I will almost guarantee you a lot of times you're gonna pick a number. Let's say I was clicking on this, whatever that was. By the time I go to place that bet, that number will have changed, and a lot of times you don't even realize that number is changing as you're placing your bet. So a lot of times the bets go in, it's different than what you thought. The odds could be different, the number could be different. And that's sometimes the difference between a win and a loss. So that can be very frustrating. I'd say if you're new to this, just start off by betting during commercial breaks or during timeouts when the line tends to stand still for, at least 10 or 20, 30 seconds, something like that. Because again, these things move very quickly, and you don't want to get caught not knowing what you're taking. So let me go ahead and see what we got. We got Bills -5.5, and that's at -110. The over-under is at about 52.5, so not far from where the game kicked off. I'm going to go ahead and put that up on the screen for you guys right now. And again, I'm just going to keep at the bottom there, scrolling along the opening line, the closing line, just so you guys can kind of start to assess the movement in these lines from the time they're first posted. And again, keep in mind, the opening line came out in the beginning of June, so months ago, right? And the Rams were a 1-point favorite then. Closing line is the number right before kickoff. So the line closed as the Bills, a 2.5-point favorite. Over-under was 52. And then the live line is, right now, or as close to right now as I can figure out based on what's happening with these sites. So, so again, right now, if you were on the Bills early on or before the game, you've got a little value there, equity, I like to call it. But if you were on the Rams before the game started, this is a time where you kind of think to yourself, man, I should have waited a little bit and I could have a better number right now. So just totals now down to 50.5. Bills money line -280. You can go ahead and update that. Carlos says he's liking the under, first half under. I think he's looking at 26.5 points. He's liking that. So yeah, so Carlo, do you have an online sports book that you bet with right now that you have that option of taking? And if so, what is it? Let's see what else we got here. What did I say? Money line, Bills at -280. So let me put that up on the screen for you guys as well. 1 second. Bills -5.5. And over under is to 50.5. I'm not going to put up the quarter live lines for now. I'm just going to keep the main game ones up there as a reference for everyone. What else do we have as far as let's see what else we have as far as kind of potential prop bets or anything like that in game. Bills first half points 14.5. You've got three-way money line. This is something I'd like to touch on because I think a lot of people get into this bet accidentally, not fully understanding what it means. So a three-way money line is very, very prevalent in soccer. where you can basically have, you're betting on one team or the other team or a draw. So a draw isn't something you usually talk about in football, which is why I think people get confused with this bet. But the thing is, like, if you were going to take Bills three-way money line minus 250, you always have to remember that in the case of a draw, you're losing that bet. It's not like a normal money line bet. If you were taking Bills just plain money line first half and the game ended, or first half comes to an end and it's 10-10 or 14-14, you're at least getting your money back on that bet. But in a three-way money line, you're losing on a draw. So I think people tend to see that number, and it's usually a lot lower than the first half money line would be. So let's see if we can find the first half money line. Money line first half, the Bills are minus 500, but that three-way money line had a minus 333. So again, a lot more appeal to that number, but in reality, I would much rather take that minus 500 and knowing that in the case of a draw, it's going to push and I'm going to get my money back there. So just be aware of that. You're essentially, just put it this way, a three-way money line bet is you taking a team minus half a point, right? They've got to win the half or they've got to win the quarter outright. All right, what else we got in this crazy? Let me try something here. Let me try extending this out and seeing if that'll stop it from freaking out as much. Okay, so Bills up to 6.5 points right now, favorite. Over-unders at 50.5. Money lines at minus 300. So all of this seems to be in line with what I would expect, given the score being 7-0. I will say the Bills definitely look. I think they've got a good look to them here in the first quarter. Again, Sean McVay is one of those coaches that is smart enough. I know he's going to be making adjustments throughout the game, and the biggest adjustments are always made at halftime, but also in between quarters. Adjustments are hard to implement mid-game, as in like mid-quarter. So even if they took a timeout with 3 minutes left in the first quarter, it's hard to implement a lot of those changes that you want to make. But teams can look drastically different from quarter to quarter. So they could look like garbage this first quarter. The Rams could come out in the second quarter, fix everything, and all of a sudden the Bills can't figure out how to move the ball downfield. So again, I tend to not jump in too quickly in these first couple drives or first couple possessions of a game. I want to see how it really levels out. So give each team a couple possessions, give them each a chance to make some adjustments after the quarter. And then maybe towards the end of the second quarter, I'll find a position that I really like to take. I think, again, my approach to live betting and sports betting in general is not sexy as most people would want it to be. People want to be out here just placing bets here and there, a couple $100 here, a couple $1,000 here, whatever it is. But I tend to be a lot more now methodical in my approach. Now, obviously, I wasn't always like that. I will say that I've lost a lot of money for a long time betting on sports, and I think a lot of that was just immaturity and not necessarily that I couldn't pick winners, but I think at a young age, again, I was just caught up in trying to do the flashy thing and bet on and try to win everything, because I thought everything had an answer, everything had a right play and a wrong play. And the reality is that sometimes the best play is no play at all. And to me, I think that's what I've been working on is really just trying to pick the spots that I'm in love with and not so much as trying to take action on as much as I can. So you got the Bills up to 7.5 right now. The total is still at 50.5 points. Again, this is a little too early for me, but if that number is going to keep growing to the Rams, I don't know. It starts to be intriguing. We get up to 9.5 points, or really 8.5 to 10.5 points. That's a pretty big number to give the Super Bowl champs at home. So again, especially because I expect there to be some adjustments made. Now, I did like the Bills. Again, if I was going to pick on something early on, I was really hoping that the Rams were going to come out and maybe score first and give me a little more value on the Bills side. That's not what happened. So it's not that I can't take. Oh, we got a big play there. Okay. So we just got picked off as they were driving. So it's funny. You see one snap, right, takes the game from the Bills being a 7.5 point favorite. Boom. 3.5 points again. So we're basically almost back to square one. Now, I will say that Rams secondary is, I mean, if you guys watched them last year, that's as good of a secondary as we've seen in a long time. And there's really no reason to think that they're going to take a step back this year. So I will say that's going to be one thing that the league is going to have to deal with. They've got an amazing secondary. But let's see if they can capitalize here. So quarter's going to end here. They'll probably run a play here, wrap up the first quarter. And like I said, this is where we see those adjustments coming in. Let's see if they can figure out a way to move the ball downfield here, if they can figure out how to deal with Buffalo's offense. So I'm not ready to hop on a spot quite yet. That 3.5 points on the Bills side is intriguing to me, but again, I've seen enough games where I know that the line is going to fluctuate to both sides. And so until I see where it really settles, there's no sense in me guessing where it's going to be at midway through the third quarter when we're just about to end the first quarter here. So I'm going to step away for a minute, take a little break, and I'll pop back in here at the beginning of the second quarter. Let me know in the chat, in the comments here, if you guys have already put any bets in during this game. Let me know what they are. I'd be very interested in seeing. Carlo, if you were taking that first half under, that interception there did wonders for you. So that over-under is down to 21.5 points now in the first half. And again, if the Bills had scored right there, it'd be looking a lot different. But seeing if there's anything here before team total, Rams 20.5 points. Rams first half at 6.5. So, if you think you got the Rams touchdown in them in this first half, you're paying, 175 for it, but that's not a bad number. Let's see what else we have here. Now you can still take some player props on these quarterbacks and some of these receivers. No, the receivers are locked out, but quarterbacks looks are still open. Three-way first half line on the over-under. Actually, I haven't seen that before. So basically all you're doing is essentially betting if you think it's going to land right on 21. Otherwise, you can just bet the over-under. So, okay. Well, I will be back in just a few. Appreciate you guys checking this out. And we'll see you in a few minutes. All right, so back now. Couple of different books have a couple of different lines up, and I've got on Bovada, we've got the Bills at -5, which is shocking to me that they would have a better number up than Bet Online. Bovada typically, I think the downfall of Bovada is that they have bigger margins, so the odds you're going to get there are typically a little worse, almost regardless of what side you're looking at. But they've got the Bills at -5, the money line's at -230. The over-under is down to 46.5. So again, down about 6 points from the opening line. And I'm still not ready to really dive in one way or the other. But I'm going to just kind of stick through here and see what happens at the turn of the quarter here. So I'm expecting the Rams obviously to make some adjustments. They've got too many playmakers. Now, the Bills' defense, no joke. We know that. But I would still expect the Rams to be able to put up some kind of fight here. So, yeah, I don't know if you guys are still feeling the under, or we've got the line changing right now. We've got Bet Online's got the Bills at 6.5. Bovada's got them at 5.5. So both sites have the total the same. So I'm just going to stick with Bovada for now, just to keep things consistent. If you guys are using a different sports book, let me know what kind of odds you're seeing. I'd be surprised if it's really any different than these two. But for there to be a full point difference between these two sites is very strange. So Bills are up to -325. No, I've got them. This is crazy. I can get the Bills at -220 on Bovada. So here's a little arbitrage betting scenario for you guys. If you guys are using multiple books, or if you have multiple accounts, this is a great opportunity for an arbitrage before it changes here. You could have had the Bills at -220 on Bovada, and you could have grabbed the Rams at +240 on Bet Online. And again, I don't know what other odds you had on other sports books, DraftKings or what have you. But if you were paying close attention and you have these different numbers up, there's an opportunity for you to be betting both sides and just taking a little bit of juice in between there, no matter who comes out on top. So I obviously don't think that's the most fun way to bet, but it's certainly the most efficient. If you can guarantee yourself a little profit regardless of what happens. So Rams about to punt the ball here. And I apologize if I'm watching on a delay. I'm watching on NFL Plus, so I don't have live cable or anything like that. So you guys may be a little bit ahead of me, but Bills are up across the 30-yard line, so we'll see what they can do with this drive. They looked good the first couple drives. Obviously, they got picked off in maybe not in the red zone, but I guess they got picked off in the red zone. So offenses look good. I would trust that if they're going to continue to be able to move the ball, they're not going to turn it over every time. And defense is holding strong. So first half, let's see what we got for first half odds here. Highest scoring quarter props are popping up. Not touching those. I used to touch those a lot, and playing with fire. Never really came out ahead there. Points ranges, no thank you. Players to score the second touchdown. I mean, again, if you guys are wanting to have a little fun, put some money on those things, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you think, outside of there, sometimes there's some glaring values to be had. Like if you let's say we would have had 2 injuries already on like the Bills offense, and let's say Diggs is out of the game, and I don't know, Dawson Knox is out of the game or something, and you see someone like Gabriel Davis sitting there at plus, I don't know, like right now he's at plus 1,400 to score the second touchdown. That's actually pretty decent value. But again, let's say we had that number with 2 players out on the Bills offense, I'd say jump all over it. But you're really at that point betting value, not necessarily to win, which is perfectly fine. I'm not really seeing anything else right now that sticks out. Bills money line is down to -190, although they're about to update that right now. So you can see already just in this first hour that we've been here, the money lines and the lines have just been all over the place. So to me, that just it hasn't settled yet. So I'm going to update this right now. think we're going to see the Bills come back at 4.5 or so. Money line at around, now it's 250. And 6.5 points on the Bills. Over under is 45.5. All right, so I'll pop this back up for you guys. And again, I'm going to keep updating this every little bit here. I obviously can't update it every second, but as there's any kind of major progressions being made, I'll update those numbers. But yeah, so let's see here. And to me, again, I've talked about this, but another reason I just would much rather be betting now as opposed to before the game is once you get locked into a bet that you placed before the game started, you tend to have a little bit of bias almost because you don't want to let go of that bet, right? You don't want to accept defeat that early. Even if it's not a good number anymore, you're going to hold on to it with the hope of it turning around. And that's just it's not always a great feeling, especially you could a lot of times be sitting there knowing that the other side really is the winning bet, or you really wish you would have taken the other side. And even though you might be able to in that moment, a lot of times you just find yourself not doing that because you've got that one bet that you're holding on to. So right now I feel great because I'm sitting here with no action at all in this game. And I know that sounds really boring for this being a live betting tutorial, but the reality is I'm guarding myself right now against losses. So I think the biggest mistake a lot of people make is they're out here trying to win money. And of course, I want to make some money too, but I'm really more or less guarding against losing. Because the reality is that the longer I can not lose money, I will always find an opportunity. I'll always find that spot in a certain game that is my quote unquote lock. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be in every game. I'm not going to find that spot in every single game. I have no problem if I sit here for 3 hours and I watch this game and I end up placing no bets. I honestly consider that a win. That to me is the discipline part that I'm working on. And if I didn't find anything that I was super sure of, then I'm happy walking away from it having lost nothing, knowing that the next game that comes around, be it on college football tomorrow night, I'm sure I'm going to find a spot in those games that I'm absolutely in love with, and I would much rather have my full bankroll available to me then to be able to unload on that spot versus having gambled on something here just because I was bored or because I couldn't find something that I was really interested in. So I'm going to hold my ground. I'll be honest. This is a lot longer than I thought I'd be sitting here on opening night of NFL and not placing a bet. So take that for what it's worth. I'd still love to hear if you guys are really thinking that you're onto something. If you see a pick that seems really good to you right now, again, we got the Bills up to a 6.5 point favorite. Money line is actually up to minus 325, which means the Rams are plus 250. They're getting 6.5 points. So again, for those of you who are on the Rams early on, this would be a nice spot to have them compared to before. So let me just update these numbers really quickly. The over-under's dropping a point. Bills money line is a little bit higher now, 325. And the spread is the same currently. So if you guys are watching this on a replay, let me know. Drop me a comment. Let me know what kind of questions you have about live betting. I'd love to know. I'd love to be able to answer anything here. Again, I know a lot of people, the vast majority of people who are betting on sports right now are not betting live. They are doing the traditional route of placing a bet before the game starts, sitting back, watching and enjoying it. And if that's your style, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, especially if you're not a super serious sports bettor, if you're not out here trying to grind and make the money. I completely agree. I think for some people, just having a little bit of money on a game makes it more fun to watch, and I'm all for that. This channel obviously is going to be geared a little bit more around the bettors who are out here trying to make, not necessarily trying to make a living out of this, but who are trying to take this seriously as a means of a side hustle or make a little extra income, because I think it absolutely can be that. So we see Buffalo driving again here. It's just looked easy for them in this first half so far. again, outside of that touchdown or that interception that they had on the last drive, they've really kind of had their way moving the ball down the field. So first half spread now, we got Buffalo minus 10.5 points. I'm not willing to jump on that number. Again, even if they go 14-0 here, that's pretty steep to me, especially this second quarter. You're going to get a lot more possessions out of the second quarter than you would have in the first. So the last few minutes of this second quarter, you could see the Rams score, in the last 30 seconds of the half. And depending on what happens between now and then, I'm just not willing to take a spot yet on that. So let's see here. I will say, the Bills have been moving pretty quickly down the field. And again, they've been throwing the ball quite a bit. Anybody have any fantasy players going tonight? So I've got Josh Allen starting. I think that's it. Honestly, you'd think I should know, but yeah, I've got Josh Allen going. So obviously I would love to see him sling a couple more touchdowns. There we go. Got Diggs down the sideline there for a nice gain. So they're looking good. Money lines up to minus 385. I think the younger me, this would have been a spot, I think, where the younger me would have probably taken all of my bankroll or my active bankroll and put it on the Buffalo money line to win the game. And I've seen myself. I can see myself doing that, and it looks intriguing because right now Buffalo is just having their way with the Rams. But again, it's not so much that I don't think that Buffalo is going to win this game. From what I've seen so far, it looks like they're just going to continue to march down the field throughout the rest of the game. But again, I know better. This game of football, sports in general, is a game of runs and adjustments, and so whether they go up 14-0 here or 17-0 into the half, I'm confident that there's going to come a point in the second half where I can get this same money line or better. So it's up to a minus 410 right now. The game line is up to minus 9.5. So as I say that, obviously the opposite is happening. The line keeps growing. There you go. Now it's down to minus 360, minus 7.5. I just know that there's going to come a spot in the second half where I'm going to have an opportunity to grab this same number, or I may be able to grab a better number or a lower spread. And at that point, I'm going to be sitting there wishing that I had just been patient and had the discipline to wait for that number that I knew was coming. So see, in a matter of 6 seconds, this number has changed by 3 points on the spread and almost 100 points on the money line. So it's just, again, don't fall in love with anything too quickly. It's very easy to do that when you're live betting because it forces you to move quickly, right? It's the way these lines are generated. They're changing every 2 seconds. It's basically telling you, hey, if you want to take this, you got to take it right now. And when you get into that mindset, you stop thinking and you start kind of acting irrationally. So you got the Bills up 10-0 here. They kicked a field goal on that drive. That line comes down to 6.5 points. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break here and come back at it here after the kickoff. So. All right. So, again, not much has changed there. Bills touchdown favorite right now. After they kick that field goal, go up 10-0 second quarter. We're going to see what the Rams can do here. I don't know. They're at about midfield or so, but I could easily see them punting again. And I still think they get a late score in this half, but if they don't, I think that's going to make it hard. Just mentally, I think if they go into the half shut out, I think that makes it. I would almost think it would be better for them to be down 17-3 than it would be for them to be down 10-0 going into the half. And I know that sounds strange. You'd say no, you'd rather be down 10 points, but there's definitely something there to going into the half shutout. I think that's definitely going to deflate them quite a bit. So let's see what they can get done on this drive here. Over-under is down to 43.5 points right now. But, so far, I don't know. I'm not ready to touch that number yet. There we go. It's creeping up already, up to 46.5. And the Bills' offense has looked so good. And there's really one of two ways you can think about this. If the Bills maintain their offense, the only way for the Rams to come back is going to be to start playing a little bit faster. They're going to be taking some shots downfield. And I think we can get some back and forth, a couple scores here or there, and drive that number up. But before this number just popped back up to 46.5, now it's back down to 44. It's just, again, first half here, numbers all over the place. Bills are at minus 285. So I'm going to leave this up just because it's pretty similar to what we've got going on. It's changing every couple seconds. You just haven't seen enough from that Rams offense. And we talked about this before the game started. A lot of new pieces in there. Cooper Kupp, obviously, I would think they're going to lean on him a little heavily, but Ben Skowronek, nice. I got him in a couple fantasy lineups, DFS lineups. But I feel like Cooper Kupp's really one of the lone rangers coming back that's familiar with this offense. Again, we talked about Allen Robinson being new. You've got Van Jefferson out. Cam Akers is back, but he played 2 games last year before he got injured. Tyler Higbee, I haven't really looked at the box score. Let's see. I would expect a decent year out of Tyler Higbee just because, not because I think of the world of him necessarily, but with Gerald Everett being gone, he was essentially in a timeshare, and they were both very capable pass-catching tight ends. But, all right, so we've got Kupp, 4 catches for 41 yards, Skowronek, 2 for 16, Higbee, 1 for 10. They just don't have any offense right now. On the other side of things, you've got Diggs, 5 for 52, Gabriel Davis, 3 for 41. Zach Moss has already caught 4 passes. I find that a little bit surprising, but good for him. If we look at the team stats in this first half, I think that's, 171 yards to 75, 10 first downs to 4. Time of possession is heavily skewed. So not a lot to like if you're a Rams fan. All right, let's see what we got now. Bills 6.5 point favorite, 43.5 points over under. Not a whole lot to see here. So again, I know this isn't the exciting part of watching a football game. Certainly not the exciting part of betting on it, but these are the kinds of things that I'm looking for just to see where the game levels out. And then as we get into the second half, that's when I expect to see a lot of the adjustments that are going to be made by both sides. And you're always going to see the adjustments not more in favor, but the team that's losing is probably going to be doing a lot more adjusting than the team that's winning. And that just makes sense, because if you're the team that's winning, you've obviously had more going right for you than the other team. So yes, they're going to go out there. The Bills are going to go back to the locker room and find some things to work on. But the Rams are going to go back there and they're going to have everything to work on. So I fully expect they're going to make a lot more adjustments. And I don't know. I guess if you're the Rams, you feel pretty good about the fact that you're only down 10-0, given how Buffalo's moved the ball. And so, as I say that, I do start to like the under in this game more and more. But I would like to see, I'd like to see the Rams get on the board first. So if they can hit 10-7, get it to 10-7 on this drive, I would expect Buffalo to be able to come down and get some points after that. Or I could see the Rams getting a stop and getting some points. Either way, think if the Rams score here, we're going to get one more score before the end of the half, whether it's a field goal or another touchdown. So then I would be comfortable looking at an under in the second half, because if we get 2 scores right now, that's going to drive that number back up a little bit. So let's see if they've got it in on 4th down. And I'm trying not to speak too soon because I don't want to ruin anything for anyone who's watching. But wow, that was a godsend for the Rams. So that 4th down play got blown up and really looked like he was getting tackled behind the line. He was getting tackled behind the line to gain, but a teammate came in and pushed him across the line. So good for you. I don't know why that's a rule in the NFL. If anybody knows this, feel free to drop a comment. But supposedly you can't push offensive players forward, but we literally see it in masses every single game. You'll see an entire offensive line pick up a running back and push him 15 yards forward. So I've never ever seen that flagged or called in any way, but it is a rule, right? It's technically a rule that you can't do that. So I don't know. Anyways, we've got the Bills money line dropping to 240. Let me update it now really quickly. Total sitting at 43.5. I think it'll stay around there unless they score here. And the Bills are at 5.5. So that back up for you guys. Now I'm trying to see here. Yeah, so we've got 5.5 points on Bovada. Bet Online has the Bills at 4.5 points. Again, if you guys have the capability of opening more than one online sportsbook account, I absolutely encourage you to do that. Spread your money across a couple different books, because you're going to find that the odds are different. And, 1 point can be the difference between winning and losing. Why not get that point if it costs you nothing? So again, if you have some money on Bovada and you've got some money on Bet Online, if you're wanting to take the Bills, you would take them on Bet Online because you can get them minus 4.5 points at just minus 110. And if you're looking at the Rams, you would grab them on Bovada at plus 5.5 points at minus 125. I think, and again, that's just looking at 2 sports books. If you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 accounts, who knows what other numbers you're finding out there. But that's when you start getting into, and I'm not even talking about arbitrage situations. I think that's another story. But just for the sake of taking the best number and what you think is going to win. And then arbitrage, of course, you can get into that left and right. It's hard to make any significant amount of money with that because of the bet limits that a lot of these sites have set up. So, right now, if I can only bet $250 or something like that on an NFL game, if I bet that on this site and $250 on the other site, I might be squeezing out $15 or something like that on an arbitrage bet, which is great. $15 is $15, and it's for taking zero risk. I understand that, but it's going to be hard to turn that into really like a long-term profitable situation. So, both books here just dropped the line a point. So we got the Bills at minus 4.5 on Bovada. I've got the Bills at minus 3.5 on Bet Online. Over under, I got 2 point spread now. On Bovada, I got 44.5. Bet Online 46.5. That's a big spread for us not even be at halftime yet and see a 2 point difference in the over under. That's pretty significant. Yeah, that gives you an opportunity to bet both sides on different books, and hope you pinch the middle there at 45 or 46 points. And obviously, if that gap was to grow, I would say if that gap was to grow to 3 or more points, that's a nice run right there. Darrell Henderson looked like a tank. So Rams finally turning it around here. Like I said, I think if they punch this in the end zone, I don't think they're kicking a field goal here. They're inside the 5, I think. Yeah, they're on the 4 right now. They're not kicking a field goal here unless they get, a holding call or something. It's 4 down territory, so. At least I don't think they would kick a field goal this deep in there. All right, Bills line is dropping even more. And I think this is probably the spot where a lot of bettors start making mistakes. I think, for example, if you were on the Rams early on in this game, and obviously, it looked like it was all Bills. Now you see the Rams come down, they're about to score a touchdown. You start thinking, oh, this is my chance. I knew they were going to start coming back. But I think, oh, that was a nice catch. They're going to review that, I know, but it looks like we've got a nice touchdown there to Cooper Kupp. Yeah, that's solid. I'm surprised they're not reviewing that. I mean, just in live, it looked like it would warrant a second. Oh, yeah. That was beautiful. Nice footwork. Nice throw. Well, there you go. So now here's a spot where let's see, we've got the first half over under at 20.5. So it's 17 right now. So I would have really loved to see this at 19.5. I know with 3 minutes left, that was very unlikely, but I'm not willing to take the 20.5 right now. I'm confident there will be another score in this half. Again, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, I don't know. But I knew that if it was 19.5, and even if it was at minus 175 or minus 180, I'd be all over that. Let me see if I see anything else that I like here. And I'm looking on Bovada. I don't know why Bovada's having issues on the desktop. I'm able to see them on the mobile phone, but so I'll leave Bet Online up here for you guys to take a look at. And then we can take a look at some DFS plays for the in-game showdown second half for any of you guys who do that kind of thing. So I typically don't get too involved with those. I don't like the single game slates. So I don't love showdowns to begin with, but it's the first game of the season. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of something in there just for fun. I primarily will do double ups in those contests. Again, I think unless you're a DFS pro, and what I mean by that is that you are maxing out max entries in every contest, you don't really stand a chance to win in any kind of multi-entry contest. You just don't. And the reason being is that you look at these contests like the Millionaire Makers and things like that, $5 entry. Usually the max entries on that is 150 entries per person. And the professionals out there, you better believe they're entering all 150 entries. And if you've got 10 pros in there or 100 pros in there, probably 100 pros in there, at 150 lineups each, basically what that means is between them, they have covered literally every physically possible combination of players that can exist in that pool. And so then unless your one lineup is that 1 in a million combination, you just don't stand a chance, because the perfect combination is out there. Someone has submitted it between those pros. You just don't stand a chance. Double ups is a very different story. They're usually single entry. So regardless of how many pros you're playing against, they've each only submitted one lineup. So that's the first thing you've got going for you. The second thing is it's a lot more strategy based and a lot less luck than most people would think. So when you're playing double ups, again, there's a lot of strategy behind it. And it's not rocket science, but you just have to understand that you're not trying to deviate from the norm the way you would in a GPP or a big contest. You're trying to really pick the safest plays with high floors. And maybe you have one upside guy here or there, depending on the contest. Like tonight's contest, for example, or this game, I'll play a couple second half double ups, and I'll probably leave the defenses and the kickers out of it entirely, because there's enough star power in this game at decent pricing that you can fit all of them in. So that's probably the route I'm going to go here in just a few minutes once we get closer to half. But on that note, you go ahead and pull DraftKings up so we can take a look and see what they've got going on. Now, again, I'm really curious to see here if the Rams get a stop and are able to come down and tie the game up, or if Buffalo just goes ahead and milks this clock and can somehow get a field goal themselves. I think that would make all the world of difference in this game. But you guys can see now, let me update these lines. We are basically right back where we started. Bills are -3.5, or were a second ago, at -165. And the over-under is at 47.5 points. So this is where we are as of like a few seconds ago. And this is not that much different than the pregame line. You see the closing line down here at -2.5 points. The over-under has obviously come down about 7 points. And I don't expect that 52 points to really be threatened. So I think if you grab the under early on in the game, good for you. But in the 46.5, again, I think that's a little generous. It's down to 45 right now as I say that. Again, I'm hoping we get a score here that drives that number up a little bit. And again, I'd be comfortable taking that under in the second half. So let's see what we got here. Penalty. Yep. Okay. So anyway, let's take a look at DraftKings here. I want to see when these in-game showdowns are going to lock for the second half. So you've got two options for the in-game showdowns. You can play the second half, which obviously is the the third and fourth quarter together, or you could play just the fourth quarter. And my theory on this is, if the game is a blowout, if by halftime you can tell that the game is going about, a heck of a catch by Diggs. But anyways, if by halftime you can kind of tell that this game's going to be out of hand come the fourth quarter, those are the games that I'm going to target to play the in-game showdown fourth quarter strictly, because I can have a pretty good feel for the changes going to be in the lineups, right? If I think starters are going to be getting pulled, if backups are going to be getting some more time, especially like RB2s, backup running backs that have really good value on certain teams, I'll target the fourth quarter in-game showdowns in those games. But if it's a tight game, like this game, for example, we're 10-7 right now. The Bills are driving, but regardless of whether they score here or not, it's a competitive game. I think you're gambling a little bit if you're just going to the fourth quarter. So what I'll do today is I'll play a little bit on the second half. But again, I want to see when these lock in. Sorry, let me open this up. 13 minutes. Okay, so they don't really give us much time at all. I was hoping that they would give us a little bit of time, like to get to halftime and be able to actually focus on doing this. So looks like if I'm trying to do this, I'm going to have to just kind of wing it right now. So let me find something that's not too big. I get a little bored with like the $5 games, so I'm probably going to play at least $25 just to make it feel like something. I also like to tend to do with the double ups. Again, they're usually single entries, but I'd like to do with as many people as I can get in there because that's, to me, it increases my chances. I know it's still 50-50 in the field, but I'm confident that the more people that come in, I'm going to be better than, 50, 60, 70% of them. And if there are more of those people coming in and in that I think I'm better than, it's going to give me a better chance of hitting. So, I'm just going to grab this one here. So let's go ahead and draft a team for the second half. Storylines, not a whole lot. Josh Allen is being Josh Allen. In my opinion, he's going to be my safest pick at captain. So with the captain spot, you want to guarantee that you're getting yourself a guy that's going to score points. With Josh Allen, he obviously gives us that ceiling, and then he also gives us that floor. So I'm very comfortable putting him in there. I could put someone like Diggs in there who's having a nice half, Cooper Kupp, but the reality is they have a much lower floor than Josh Allen does, and I don't necessarily know that their ceiling's any higher. Now, someone like Gabe Davis, if I was playing a GPP, I could see putting someone in there like him. And that just got picked off. The Rams are coming back. Great thing is, interceptions aren't really going to do you a whole lot of harm. In DFS, you're usually losing a point. I think on DraftKings, you lose a point for an interception, so it's not really a deal breaker. Obviously, it kills the drive, which sucks. But it is what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and still keep Josh Allen up there. I've liked what I've seen out of a lot of these players, but I'm wondering if the Rams come back and they try to do anything on the ground. I just don't know. Right now, they've got 9 carries for 36 yards. So they're averaging 4 yards a carry, give or take. But they've only run the ball 9 times. The Bills have only run the ball 8 times. I don't think I'm going to be playing any of the running backs here. Receivers, it's pretty concentrated. You see Diggs with 6 catches, Kupp with 6 catches. It'd be hard to really fade either of them. And so I guess Skowronek's someone I'm probably having in the lineup. Target-wise, Higbee's had 3 targets. Zach Moss has 4, but those 4 passes were all in the first quarter. I don't think we've seen him do anything in the second quarter. So I'm pretty comfortable going with like a stars and scrubs lineup here. So what we're going to do is have Josh Allen, we'll go Diggs and Kupp. And obviously I'm going to have to come down to some lower players, but Skowronek's pretty cheap. He's at 1,800. Higbee, I wouldn't mind having. I don't know where he's at, though, price-wise. He's at 5,600. That's a little too much for me. The kickers, the second half kicker, this is where it gets kind of interesting because late game scenarios, if the game's tied or we just need a field goal to win. But now we're guessing between which field goal kicker. I would rather have Matt Gay, but let's see pricing on there too, 3,800. Isaiah Mckenzie, he's got 1 target, 1 catch. Crowder's got 2 targets. So at this point, really we're just, you're getting lucky here based on who you pick. So I've got 5,000 left. I could grab Crowder. Defenses, I don't know that I'm going to touch them. I know the Rams have a couple picks and things like that, but really, unless you're scoring touchdowns defensively, you're not scoring a ton of points. And I'm not saying that's out of the question, but I'm going to hold off. So we'll go ahead and pop Crowder in here. And, No, you know what? Let's throw Zach Moss in there, just in case they get down 1 yard line or something and Josh Allen's not running it in. All right. So still nothing, really nothing to move on here. Now the Rams are favored. The Rams are 1.5 point favorite as they're driving down. So that's, I was just saying this, 15 minutes ago? I said the young me would have taken everything and put it on the Bills at minus 385 because they were just looking so good, up 10-0 with the ball. Things have changed quickly. So Again, I know better now, so I'll wait till I get to a spot where I think we got something to lay on here, and that's when we'll take it, but not for now. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to take a little break here. Again, what really happened in this half doesn't have any consequence for me at the moment. If you guys have any bets in right now, let me know, and I'm rooting for you, whatever it is. But I'll take a quick break, and we'll be back at the start of the second half, probably a little bit before the second half starts. All right, let's get these odds. Go ahead and get these odds updated for you guys. Now the third quarter's kicked off. We've got the Bills are down to minus 145. I'm going to go off of Bovada odds just to keep things consistent. I think they're just a 1.5 point favorite now. We're basically back to the odds from the closing lines. The Bills were a 2.5 point favorite. Money line was right around that minus 145 area. The over-under is obviously a bit down. Kicked off at 52, and now we are at 45.5. So some movement there. Bills now getting 200. And again, I'd say the best thing I've done so far is not taking anything. So this game's just been all over the place, really waiting for it to settle in. It might not be till the middle of the fourth quarter before we end up placing a bet, honestly. A couple people in the chat earlier did like the first half under. So I hope they were able to get in on that. That cashed in. I did mention at the end of the quarter there, well, about 3 minutes left, when the score was 10-7, I was confident we were going to get another score. I didn't know if it was going to be a field goal or a touchdown. I would have loved anything to take an over 19.5, but they had the line set correctly at 20.5 points. And so, again, I think just having the discipline to not jump in for the sake of jumping in. But if we would have had that number at 19.5, I would have been happy to jump all over that. But as it is, we'll just hold on here. Rams got stopped on their opening drive. Bills will start off here and see. So third quarter lines now. We've got the Bills plus 0.5 point. No, just kidding. That didn't make any sense. It just wasn't updated. So let's refresh this. I'll turn this volume down a little bit here. I'm just watching the game on the other screen. Okay, so there we go. The Bills third quarter minus 2.5. Third quarter money line minus 275. And I'll pull this over here. I'll put the game cast up for you guys. So you can, if you're not watching the game live on TV or anything else, I'll put the game cast up just so you can kind of see. So the Bills right now, they're going to start off with the ball on their 42-yard line. So incredible field position to start off here. For as good as they looked moving the ball early on, after that interception that they threw in the red zone, things slowed down a little bit, right? Rams made some adjustments, but you're giving them the ball close to midfield here. That's a tough spot for the Rams. Unless you're asking them to come up with another turnover, that's just a tough spot. I'm curious to see if the Bills are going to come out and continue to sling the ball downfield, which is honestly exactly what I would do, because I think that's where they're going to have the most success. Sometimes coaches and offenses just try to force the issue, right? The run game. They try to establish that run game for no particularly good reason. I think the Bills were having plenty of success without it. And so I'd be curious again to see if they're going to try to force the issue on the ground. I don't think it's going to do them very well. But if they can kind of just go with the, if it's not broke, don't fix it approach, I think they just drop back and start slinging the ball here. I think if they can score on this drive, that to me might be the time I jump in on the Bills. If we get a touchdown. Field goal, not so much. But I just feel like at some point, Josh Allen, if he's going to take the next step in this league, he's going to really just have to go out there and get it. He's going to have to take it. So let's see. Start off, they got a 12-yard run. Okay. A little surprising, but hey, they'll take it. At minus 210, to me, that's a really good number there. Again, if you believe in the Bills, which I like them a little bit pregame. I like what I've seen so far. And if I was picking an offense for the rest of this game, I would be taking the Bills over the Rams. But and on the defensive ends, honestly, I think both defenses have looked fairly equal. So if I'm picking just between offenses, then I'm definitely going to lean towards the Bills. It's a little earlier than I'd like to pick sides, so I might see if I can hold off a little bit longer. But they're across midfield, and worst case scenario, they're going to back the Rams up. I think hopefully they could pin them inside the 5 or something like that on a worst case scenario. Rams not great, on a long field like that. Over under 44.5. Really, if you're betting this number right now at this point in time in the game, you're really just betting on this drive because, a score here is going to bump that number up closer to 47, 48. And if they don't, it's going to drop a couple points. So especially if they pin the Rams deep, because then you're looking at taking off an additional 5 minutes of game time before seeing a score. So 9.5 points on the over/under. Again, same thing. You're betting on the outcome of this drive, really. So I don't typically like to place my bets on something that's so specific, so tied to one or two events, right? Like one big pass here, they score on this drive, or an interception here and don't score on this drive. I think makes or breaks that number for this quarter. So I'm not willing to put my money in on that. Now for the game, I'd be leaning on the under. And Josh Allen just got tripped up there. He was well on his way to a first down, but I'm leaning towards the under at some point in time in this game. This might be the spot to take it, only because, again, if the Bills don't score here and they back the Rams up into their 10-yard line or whatever it is, then you're looking at a very long field. I think the Bills end up getting the ball back, scoring on the next possession. So let's see what else we can get out of this. And this is the stuff I'm talking about, never really touching. What will the outcome of the next play be? That's not even, I understand if you're trying to bet and have some fun. To me, that's not even fun, because by the time your bet gets placed, you're probably not even getting to see the play that happens. So Josh Allen with a ridiculous stiff arm there. So we could take the Bills in the third quarter. I could take them minus half a point at minus 250. Or I could take just the money line, a pick 'em basically at 550. And that's a big number to pay, but I don't know. Minus 285. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the Bills minus 1.5 here. I'm going to take this as a 3-unit play. It's a little earlier than I'd like to, but that's what I'm going to lock in right now. And the reason I'm taking that adjusted under at 4.5 points, that's 4 I could have dealt with. 4.5 is tough, but to get 1.5, I'll take that field goal. I don't think the 1 point's going to come into play. All right, I'll take a quick little break here. All right, I'm back here. So we just had the Bills pop in and score. Couldn't have come at a better time. Let me update this live line here and pop this up on the screen. So we've got the Bills now and again, I'm using Bovada's odds. So I've got the Bills at -6 and money lines at -360. I'll put this up on the screen for you in just a minute. Over under is back up to 47 points on the total. Let's see if I can pop this up for you guys. There we go. So, so right before that, I was able to get an adjusted line on the Bills. I took the -1.5 at -220. So the odds were a little steep. The reason I did that is because the regular line was -4.5, and the issue with 4.5 to me, you're looking at, touchdown field goals, a 4-point spread. So the game was tied 10-10. So I could see Buffalo starting to run away with this thing, but getting them under a field goal is really where I was comfortable with. I don't think they're going to win the game by 1 point, but I could easily see them winning the game by a field goal. But I really like the 1.5 points there. Again, odds of -220 are steep. But I have no problem. I kind of mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, but the earlier you are in the game, focus in more on the odds. So, try and get bets that are plus money if possible, or as close to even money as possible. So -105, -110, -115, that's all good. As the game goes on, you should expect to be placing bets at much worse odds, right? So when I'm watching the game, and I'm seeing it unfold, you're starting to get a lot of answers to what's going on in the game. But those answers come with a price, right? So I started to like what I see. The momentum was shifting a little bit towards the end of the first half towards the Rams. So for the Bills to come out, get a great defensive stop. Defense looked solid on that opening drive for the Bills. They turn around, get the ball close to midfield, march right down and score. They've appeared to be a lot more consistent in this game. And again, outside of that interception, they got 2 interceptions, I think now. The one interception that was in the red zone, another interception, it was still part of a drive that was moving the ball. So I don't anticipate Buffalo having issues driving the ball. Again, I think the defenses are pretty equal, but Buffalo's offense seems to be on another gear right now. Again, the Rams just have a lot of new pieces they're going to work with. I'm sure they're going to be fine throughout the course of this year, but it's a lot to ask for them to figure it all out. on the opening season and, game one on a Thursday night, it's just tough. So, they're going to come back here. We got Cooper Kupp right there for a 23-yard catch. So let's see. This game could end up flying over the 52 points. We've had this line go down all the way to 43.5. Right now it's up to 47.5. So we could see here, we could see this line continue to grow, which would be fine by me because in the end, I think if we do get some scoring back and forth here, I think by mid-fourth quarter is when I'd be targeting taking the under because, again, regardless of how much scoring happens, I think that at the end of the day, both of these defenses are very good. Both of these coaches are smart coaches. They're going to know how to manage the clock, and I think possessions are going to be limited in that fourth quarter. So I should say towards the middle half of that fourth quarter. So we could see another score here in the third quarter. We could see another score to open the fourth quarter, and then I think things really wind down from there. So I'll be looking at these adjusted under totals in a little bit. Boom, Rams are right back in it there. So the line just dropped from 6. Let me update this. We're all the way down to Bills minus 3.5. And money line at 285. Over under 47.5. Again, I'm not going to update this every second, but that was a pretty big jump there. And then you get the holding penalty. So I don't know if anyone here's got any DFS going on. I'm going to put my lineups up here. I think I did a couple full game slates. Full game showdown slates. So, and then I think I did one entry into the second half showdown. So we'll see what comes out of that. Again, nothing too big. I think I entered a couple $25 contests or something like that. So let's see what we get into. So if you're able to see on my screen here, so this I typically will do the double ups, 50-50 double ups. I think that's a very consistent way to make money if you know the strategies involved. But what's interesting is if you see here, basically you have a couple guys at the top. These 3 players all have the same lineup. The next row of people, 3 players have the same lineup. The next 10 people have the same lineup. And then after that, there's 20 or 30 of us that all have the same lineup. So when you get into these strategy-based double ups, you start playing against the same people over and over again. And the strategy obviously is very similar because we all ended up on the same lineup. And then you can kind of tell where, not poking fun at anybody, but some of your newer players or some of your noobs kind of creep in. You can kind of tell by their lineups where they're taking some risks maybe that they didn't need to take. So in a cash game, for example, this guy's playing Tutu Atwell. There's nothing wrong with Tutu Atwell, right? I think in a GPP, great play. In a cash game, that's not where you want to be different from the field because right now he's sitting on 0 points, and that's the make or break for him. I'll come up to this guy here. He's playing Tavon Austin's still in the league. I had no idea. This guy's been around forever. So this guy's playing Tavon Austin and Darrell Henderson. Again, not that there's anything terribly wrong with Darrell Henderson, but you can see here he's 4.5% owned, and that's because most of these guys that are playing, again, I'll call them pros, if you will, but they're not going to take a shot on Darrell Henderson in a game like this. We know the run games for both teams were not projected to do a whole lot, and and they're not. So really, outside of that, the rest of the players are pretty similar. I think I faded Stafford, I'm pretty sure. And then you get into these guys up here. So the rest of our lineups are pretty similar. You look at, Josh Allen's 100% owned, so everyone started him. 75% of us in the captain spot. That makes sense. Cooper Kupp, 80% owned, should be higher. Diggs, 73% owned, should be higher. Allen Robinson, 87% owned. I'm surprised it's that high. Isaiah McKenzie, to me, this was the, outside of Josh Allen, the obvious picks. Isaiah McKenzie was the one pick I think that was a must. And I don't think maybe it was as obvious, but it wasn't as obvious to everyone, I guess. But it made sense. 1,000, given his price, it just made absolute sense to have him in there, and that allowed you to also to afford, Allen and Kupp and Diggs. So, anyways, let's see here. Bills got the stop, and you just see a 4-point swing in the line. That's huge. Money line up to 500 right now. So you see this starting to really shift towards the Bills here. So let me update these lines for you again. Get them up on the screen. All right, so we got Buffalo at 6.5, money line at 500. Again, this is via Bovada. If you're using Bet Online, I can tell you those odds have been a little bit different, surprisingly, very different. So let's check those out now. Take a look at live betting and see where we're at. They've got 6.5, 44. Oh, we've got the money line on the Bills at minus 360. Wow. Let me just text someone that line is a lot lower than I. That's pretty huge. You got the. So let's see here. It's let me open this up a little bit, so maybe it'll stop refreshing so much. There we go. Okay, 360. So Rams at plus 270, and wow, you can get Rams at plus 375 on. So here's, sorry, I just texted someone. There's arbitrage opportunity there. You've got the Rams at plus 360 on Bovada. Okay, well now it's changed. But for about 2 minutes there, you could have had the Rams at plus 375 and the Bills at minus 360 on the two different sites there. So, again, not a huge spread there, but if you're the kind of person that's just looking to grind out a little bit of money here and there with zero risk involved, that's how you do it. So again, regardless of the outcome of the game, at that point, you're going to take away a little bit of money. And if you're just sitting at home enjoying the game and, this isn't meant to be a income-producing side hustle for you, then that's fantastic. We got the Bills creeping now. They just picked up a first down, so up to 7.5, minus 525, over under at 43.5. Now, I will say the one thing that concerns me a little bit here, and it's great, the Bills are finding a little bit of success, and I do say a little bit of success in the running game on the ground. But if you see the way that it's happening, I don't consider it success. They've picked up some nice chunk gains on the ground. So they've had a couple 12-yard runs, but a lot of it's been Josh Allen making things happen on his feet, that is part of their offense. I totally understand that. But it's not like they're handing the ball off and averaging 4.5 yards a carry. That's not what's happening. They're getting stuffed at the line more times than not and then getting those chunk gains. So I just hope they don't, again, feel the need to force it on the ground. But if they're able to mix it up, like they just completed a nice pass there with the first game, I just don't see the Rams offense keeping up with this. So I'm glad I got in where I got in. May or may not be the only bet I put in for the day, but again, this is the best part of live betting to me, is that I can sit here and just pick my spot with no no attachment to anything that I might have thought before the game, no attachment to what I may have read or what I might have heard from quote unquote experts or ESPN pros who couldn't pick a game to save their life. I'm betting on what I'm seeing, and there's no argument in that. There's no lie. There's no misconceptions. I'm watching the game, and if you understand it, and I don't say that lightly because there's a lot of things that you need to understand more so than just the score and the time of the game, and who looks good throwing the ball. What kind of adjustments are going to be made. Understanding the swings that can happen. When can those swings happen, or when are they most likely to happen? When is a turnover most likely to affect the outcome of an entire game as opposed to just one possession? All those things make a big difference. So I'm happy we were able to find the spot that I like there. Again, it's not a guarantee that it's going to win. There's still a lot of time in this game, and anything can happen. But to me, the ends do not justify the means. So the play that I made is right to me, whether it wins or loses. If the Bills lose this game by 20 points, I'm not going to question my play. Now, if the Bills, if I make this play 20 times in the season and it loses 17 out of the 20 times, then I'm going to have to reassess and say, hey, what's my philosophy like that I'm getting this wrong 17 out of 20 times? But with my track record, if I'm hitting it 80% of the time, and I take this bet and I feel that it's right and it loses by 20 points, I'm not going to question that. It lost by 20 points. Doesn't mean what I did was wrong. So I think bettors who are successful in this industry understand that the final score does not dictate whether your bet was right or wrong. You have to know that the minute you put your bet in, before and regardless of what happens after that bet is in. You need to know in the moment, did I make the right decision or did I not? And that's a very hard thing for people to understand, because they tend to think, well, I'll find out if my bet was right or wrong at the end of the game. And that's not how it works. All you're finding out is how things unfolded, whether, there's a little bit of luck or bad luck or a couple irregular plays, or there's all kinds of stuff, bad calls. You need to know in the moment if you're doing the right thing or not. And that's going to be the difference between a winning sports bettor and one who is continuously blaming their losses on bad luck and bad beats, and someone who doesn't recognize when they got lucky. So in the long run, those people don't win. In the moment, sure, they can win a game. Anyone can win a game in the moment. Anyone can win 2, 3, 4, 5 games in a row. But try to find someone who's consistently making money and consistently winning in sports season after season. That's where the people really start to drop off. So we're at a commercial break right now. Update the lines really quick. Actually, I don't know if I need to. Anything's changed. 7. Bovada's got the Bills at -7. Money line at 750. So the money line's definitely growing. Let me fix that. Sorry, and then I'll get it posted again. And the over-under is down to 42.5. The only thing only thing I kind of wish was a little bit different is that it could still happen. I was hoping there was a little more scoring here again. I would target an under late in the fourth quarter, but as this number keeps shrinking, it wouldn't surprise me to get a garbage touchdown at the end of the game or something like that. Sorry, I got an update on WNBA action here. Anyways, talking about the Chicago Sky losing to the Sun today. I'm that guy. So like most people, used to hate women's sports, specifically women's basketball, specifically the WNBA. But I started really following it very, very closely because of sports betting. And I found that there was a lot more opportunity to make money betting on the WNBA than there was in the NBA or college, men's college basketball, or other basketball leagues. So that was when I first started gravitating towards the WNBA a couple years, maybe 2 years ago. Before that, again, I knew of it passively, but I mostly just hated watching it. So I genuinely now enjoy watching the WNBA, and I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but I personally think that it is absolutely more enjoyable to watch than the NBA is, for a number of reasons. And I'm not going to come out here and say that there's more skill involved, or the talent is there comparatively to the NBA, but it's genuine basketball, so it's nice. It's what people think of when they say they prefer college sports to pro sports, right? You talk about kids who are going out there and laying everything on the line because they're not locked into a $150 or $150 million contract. The WNBA is very much the same way. The ladies go out there, they play their asses off every single game. It's not about the money for them, and it's more sound basketball. So it's, technically speaking, they play better basketball. Sorry, not technically speaking, from a technical standpoint, they play better basketball than NBA players do. Is it as flashy? Is it as talented? No, but I enjoy the X's and O's. So I also just enjoy effort, which, on any given night you can turn on an NBA game and watch any number of superstars half-assing it. And I get it. They're half-assing it is still better than some of these women at 500%, but I respect the effort, I respect the consistency, and I respect the love of the game a little bit more that I see in the WNBA. So anyways, I'm still watching it to bet on it. There's a lot of money to be made there. All this coming back to say that I don't know how the Connecticut Sun are winning games, because I look at their roster and I just don't think they're nearly as talented as a lot of these teams that they're beating. So I don't know. Even just watching them, they don't look good doing it. Anyways, everyone's dogging me for being a WNBA fan. Whatever, I don't care. And this is the first year that I've watched enough of it to know that there are a number of ladies that are way better than I am. Thanks, Carlo. I hope you able to get some action in there. I'll shoot you a message if I end up taking any other plays later on. So. Carlo heard me start talking about the WNBA, and he just had to run for the hills. So I don't blame him. There was a part of me that actually thought about putting the WNBA game up instead of this tonight, but that would have just been dumb. So glad we didn't go there. All right, let's see what we've got going on here. Currently winning. Okay, so we're doing decent tonight in DFS. Again, I didn't do anything crazy. You just put a couple of double ups in. You can see double up, double up, double up, double up. And then I think I did 2 long shot, like GPPs, which I'm surprised either of them are hitting. One of them is. Actually, they both are somehow. I don't know. I didn't do anything crazy with those lineups. But anyways, so we're just waiting here. See if we've got any good numbers. We've got the Bills at -10.5 now. This game's starting to run away a little bit. Money line's at 1,600, so I'm going to update that for you guys. And then I'll pop that up on the screen. So -10.5, make that 11.5. Looks like the Bills are going to score here. -1,600, 46.5. All right, let's pop that up there. And this is when I'd love to see Josh Allen use his feet to get into the end zone here, because I got him on my fantasy team, and he's had a solid game, but not necessarily from a fantasy perspective. And yep. What? It's a big hit Josh Allen just took. Hopefully he doesn't take too many of those, but he's a big guy. He loves the contact. All right, well, I appreciate you sticking around. It looks like no one's here right now, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up, and we'll be back on Sunday.